Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some companies just seem to invent their own prices out of thin air, charging whatever they want, while others are totally forced to accept exactly what the market dictates? It's a huge fundamental question in business. Today, we're going to uncover exactly why some businesses hold absolute control over their pricing, while others, well, they're completely at the mercy of the market.
All right, let's dive right into this fascinating breakdown of market structures. We're going to be focusing heavily on the absolute theoretical extreme known as perfect competition.
Here's our agenda for today. We'll start by mapping out the market structure spectrum, then compare some key market features, run through the universal rules of production, define perfect competition, and finally, wrap up with the incredibly strict conditions required for it to exist. Let's get into it.
Starting right off with Section 1. The market structure spectrum.
You see, every single business out there falls somewhere on this spectrum. On the far left, you've got maximum competition, which we call perfect competition. Stretching all the way to the right side, you've got zero competition, a complete total monopoly. And right in between those two extremes, you have monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Honestly, where a business sits on this line dictates pretty much everything about how they operate.
Moving on to Section 2, let's compare some of these market features.
If we look at the fundamental DNA of these markets, it's pretty wild. A monopoly is kind of like a walled fortress. You've got one firm, a totally unique product, and blocked entry. This gives them massive control over their price. But perfect competition? It's more like a giant, wide-open farmer's market. There are so many firms, completely identical products, and completely free entry. And that means no single firm has any price control at all. It's a stunning contrast, right? In perfect competition, your long-run economic profit is literally zero. You only make normal profit. But in a monopoly, that long-run profit can be massive. It's a completely different world depending on where you operate.
Okay, now for Section 3, the universal rules of production.
Before we totally isolate perfect competition, we really need to realize that every business owner on that spectrum wakes up every single morning and has to answer two existential questions. First, should we even bother producing today? Like, is it actually worth unlocking the doors and turning the lights on? And second, if the answer is yes, exactly how much should we make so that our profits are maximized? Or worst case, our losses are minimized?
The answer to that first question is governed by what economists call the shutdown rule. This basically dictates that a firm should only produce if the total revenue coming in is equal to or greater than the total variable cost. Put simply, if the cash you make from selling your goods can't even cover the day-to-day variable cost of making them, things like raw materials and hourly labor, you should shut down immediately. There's zero point in operating if every single item you make just digs you deeper and deeper into a hole of variable debt.
Now, the crucial point for the second question, exactly how much to produce, is the ultimate golden rule of business. This is the profit maximizing rule. Profit is maximized exactly at the point where marginal revenue, or MR, equals marginal cost, or MC. This equation, MR equals MC, is literally the holy grail of production. It just means the revenue you bring in from selling one additional unit perfectly matches the cost of producing that exact unit.
In practical terms, this means if your marginal revenue is greater than your marginal cost, you're making money on that next unit. So, expand output, keep making more. But if your marginal revenue drops below your marginal cost, that last unit actually cost you more to make than you sold it for. You're bleeding money on the margins. In that case, you absolutely have to reduce output until you hit that sweet spot in the middle, where MR perfectly equals MC and your profits are perfectly maximized.
Which brings us to Section 4, defining perfect competition.
So, perfect competition happens when none of the individual market participants, not the buyers, and definitely not the sellers, have absolutely any influence on the product's price. Because no single seller provides more than a tiny fraction of the overall market supply, they're forced into this role of being price takers. That means they just have to accept whatever price the market dictates. They can't invent their own price. If they try to charge even a penny more than the going market rate, boom, they lose all their customers instantly.
And finally, Section 5, the strict market conditions. For this to actually happen, the market must be flooded with a massive number of buyers and sellers, which ensures no single entity has any real market share or leverage. Second, there can be absolutely no collusion. Each seller has to act entirely independently, no secretly teaming up with your competitors in a back room to fix prices. Third, and this one is absolutely crucial, all the goods sold in the market must be completely identical, or homogeneous. Think of agricultural products like a standard bushel of wheat. You can't charge a premium for your specific brand of wheat if it's literally indistinguishable from the farmer next door.
But wait, the list gets even stricter. There also has to be completely free entry and exit into the market, meaning no legal, financial, or technological barriers whatsoever. Then there's this wild condition called perfect knowledge. This means all buyers and sellers instantly know everything about market conditions. If one seller quietly raises their price, every buyer in the world magically and instantly knows about it and goes somewhere else. Plus, there has to be zero government intervention influencing anything. And lastly, the factors of production must be perfectly mobile, meaning labor and capital can just shift instantly to exactly where they're needed most.
So, looking at this incredibly strict list, perfect knowledge, completely identical goods, absolutely zero barriers to entry, does a truly perfectly competitive market actually exist anywhere in the messy, complex modern business world? Or is it really just an economic myth? Maybe just a theoretical benchmark we use to try and understand reality, but one we never actually achieve within it. I'll leave you to chew on that. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the mechanics of the markets around you.